Get ready to connect with some of the biggest names in the entertainment world, all at a click of a button. Now, I stumbled upon Podstar's website on social media, and I was blown away by the talent they have already on their roster. I reached out to them, and they gave us an exclusive early VIP access to the site before it officially launches. And today, my guest is D-Von Dudley. Podstars is a website that connects podcasters with phenomenal celebrities and spectacular professionals for interviews. For a monthly fee of only $8.99 per month, that's right, only $8.99 per month, you can have access to the entire professionals catalog as well as all of the other podcasters who are a Podstars community member. Imagine having the chance to interview African safari guides, an MLB umpire, FBI agents, authors, even UFO experts. That's right. You can find them all here on Podstars. Podstars' celebrity catalog is extremely impressive and loaded with professional wrestlers such as the most dangerous man, Ken Shamrock, my guest today, D-Von Dudley, Santino Marella, Victoria, Buff Bagwell, Jake the Snake Roberts, Sabu, and so many more. The Podstars website is launching in February, and you can check it out now on www.podstars.net. Stay tuned for new talent announcements and website updates by following them on social media. Join the Podstars community soon and elevate your podcast to the next level. Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome back to 10 Count. I'm Steve Fall, but on today's edition, I am talking to one half of the greatest tag team of all time. It's D-Von Dudley. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. You know, I like that phrase, the greatest tag team or the most decorated tag team, because there are today that are proclaiming that, but that's okay. You let them complain, and it's okay. It's okay.
Now, how do you feel about that, though? How do you feel about people calling themselves the greatest of all time when people consider the Dudley Boys the greatest tag team of all time?
Well, even when we were in ECW, you know, being the bad boys that we were, and we hadn't really done much at that point, just, you know, cause havoc in ECW, we were going around saying we were the greatest tag team in the history of the business. You know, I think that just comes with the territory of being a wrestler, you know, that cockiness, that arrogance, you know, even if you haven't, done anything in the business, you're still going to be considered, in your mind, the greatest of all time. So that's okay. Let them talk, you know, but we have the belts and we have the accolades to prove it. So
this is true. So do you believe you are one half of the greatest tag team of all time?
You know, that's hard because every era will dispute that. You know, so my era will dispute today's era because of what we've done during that era. And I'm sure 20, 30 years from now, whoever is holding the title around now that is claiming to be the greatest tag team in the history of this business, like what is it, FDR Revival?
Yep.
You know, they are claiming that now, which is fine. And you have a lot of people that are watching them today that are pretty much agreeing with them. But again, this is their era. So I don't like to say all time because it all depends on the era that you did your job in. You know, you have the Rock and Roll Express, you have the Midnight Express, you have the Hart Foundation, you know, you have the British Bulldogs, you know, the Road Warriors, you know, all of those tag teams back in that era. You know, there's a hard dispute of who was the greatest of all time. So now you move to the Attitude Era, and now the Dudleys are claiming to be the greatest of all time. You know, it's just, again, it's the era in which you were born in which you were performing in. I think that will determine. I think you should say, instead of the greatest of all time, I'm the greatest of my era.
Because also it's very hard because you bring up a good point when people are like, "What's your wrestling Mount Rushmore?" Well, what's your criteria? As in, you mentioned the most decorated tag team of all time because of those championships. So is it most championships, most merchandise sales, most like entertainment, best wrestlers? Like there are so many categories to consider best of all time. Mount Rushmores. So yeah, it could get a little sticky, but I'm sticking with my personal opinion, and my personal opinion is Dudley Boys, greatest of all time. So no one can change my thoughts. Not even you, D-Von. Don't try to change it, okay?
Well, I gotta say, you know, thank you, but you know, in me and Bubba's opinion, or I should say Bubba and I, it would have to be the Road Warriors.
Mm.
When you talk about drawing money, I mean, me and Bubba drew money. We drew a lot of money for every company we worked for, and it was good money. But the Road Warriors were box office smash hits. I mean, they were incredible, and you cannot deny what they did. We had our run with Edge and Christian and the Hardys, and it was a great run. It was what, 2.5, almost 3 years. And I don't think any tag team in the history of this business, and I will say that, will be able to say that they had that long of a run and kept the people's interest.
Yes.
I mean, every time the Hardys and the Dudleys and Edge and Christian got in that ring, it was magical. And that's what I loved about it. It was just magical. And so with that being said, it's very hard pressed for me, myself, and I think I can speak for Bubba, to say that we were the greatest of all time. We've always gave the Road Warriors their just due because we tried to follow in their footsteps. We wanted to be just like the Road Warriors. And I think that we did a damn good job in doing that. I think we were technically a little bit more sound than the Road Warriors. They were brutal.
Yeah. Just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean the Dudleys were like that too, but we had a little bit of style to us. A little, we had, I can say, technical wrestling. I was able to really do a lot of stuff. Bubba always put me over in that aspect in terms of saying D-Von was the wrestler of the group because of how I was trained with Johnny Rodz, the legendary Hall of Famer Johnny Rodz. And anyone that came out of Johnny Rodz' school, you knew that they knew how to wrestle and they knew how to perform. That's how good of a worker Johnny was. And you got to remember, and I was thinking about this before the interview too, not too many people can have a legendary career and be able to teach. Because it's one thing to do what you do in the ring, but to be able to pass that knowledge on, not too many people know how to do that. And I think what helped me as a producer in WWE was the fact that I had a wrestling school. So I learned as I went along. I used to tell the students all the time, I go, you're learning from me, but I'm actually learning from you, learning how to get what I know up here into that brain of yours. So it's a one hand washes the other aspect. But again, thank you for the accolades, but I just got to say the Road Warriors were the greatest of all time.
That's your personal opinion, D-Von. I don't agree. I don't agree.
But I'll tell you what, I know the question's going to come out of your mouth, so I'm going to answer before. Who do I think is great now? The Usos.
Well, I was yeah, that was a question down the line. We can talk about them right now. They're also using, the 3D as one of their patented moves here. And are you honored by that? Because I know some fans get turned off when, for instance, you see Kevin Owens using the Stone Cold Stunner. People who grew up with Stone Cold Steve Austin go, what are you doing? But yet the DDT from Jake the Snake Roberts and so on and so forth. How do you feel seeing that being used?
Well, what the fans have to hope they do, and I hope they watch this interview to let them know that they didn't just do it. They came to me and asked me, I would say almost 2 years prior to them using it. And I remember them asking me, and I said, man, I'd feel honored and privileged if you guys did that. Because, we came back to WWE and we started with New Day, and then we went from New Day to the Usos. So it was like being in the ring with them and working with them and seeing the talent that they had. I was honored and privileged that they even came to me and asked, and I was like, absolutely. And I remember giving them pointers on how to do it in terms of how to make sure you pick up your opponent the right way. And when a guy comes over to cut them like Bubba does, how to do that. And again, we had talked about that, like I said, almost 2 years prior to them using it. I remember Cesaro and Sheamus did it at a live event. And they asked me then, would they be able to use it? And I said, absolutely. I think they did it once on TV. And each time they asked me, was it okay? I said, boys, I was like, listen, I'm honored and privileged that you came to me and asked me. I was like, and if Bubba says anything, I'll let Bubba know you did. Be like, I'm put their asses through a table. You use my favorite. But we weren't wrestling anymore. I was done. Bubba was still active, but nobody really does 3D without the other. So it was an honor and privilege for them to do it. So absolutely, I was very happy when I saw it. And it was funny because I was home recuperating from back surgery. And I remember the Usos doing it one time, but it wasn't on TV. It was at a live event. And it didn't look, that good. And then I remember pulling them aside and talking to them about it. And I said, hey, listen, this is what went wrong. This is how you got to do it. And they were like, okay. And I thought they were like making the old man feel good. Okay, D-Von, yeah, whatever. But they put it in their back pocket. I'm home watching one of the pay-per-views, and out of nowhere, I'm getting text messages and my Twitter notifications is blowing up. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? So I looked, I was like, oh shit, what did Bubba do now?
Oh no.
Because it tagged me in it. And I was like, oh man. And it wasn't that he did anything, it was just that the Usos had hit 3D. And I think they were calling it the one.
Yeah, the 1D.
1D. And I thought that was great. Even though I was like, you could have called it 3D to give me full homage of it, but now I thought it was great. And when I saw them do it, I popped huge. I mean, remind you, I just had back surgery, and I jump up out of my bed going, oh my God, I love. And I was like, wait, my wife goes, wait a minute, I thought you were hurt. I was like, oh, my back.
Oh, yeah. Honey, I can't lift those heavy boxes today.
Yeah. But no, I was honored and privileged. I loved them very much. The whole Usos and New Day rivalry, I helped produce those matches. I was very proud of that. And the Usos and both New Day, give me, some credit. But I tell them all the time, you guys were in that ring doing it. I was just relating a message from Vince, and what he wanted to be done in your match. And that was it. I think you guys should take the full credit. But I love the fact that they were very humble enough to, thank me and always put me in that category as being one of the ones responsible for helping them, get that rivalry started. It was such a pleasure to watch those guys grow. It really was. I enjoyed myself to the fullest. So many other tag teams, Cesaro and Sheamus, I was with them a lot. The Bludgeon Brothers, Eric Rowan and Luke Harper, I was with those guys. Who else? There's so many of the other tag teams that I really, had a hand in helping those guys. And again, I had a great time producing, and I never thought in a million years that I would be able to do that job, because I know how hard it is to produce, especially on a WWE level, because Vince is so adamant. He wants everything so perfect. And, one little screw up and you could be done, as a producer. So I was very nervous and very, on edge when told that I was going to be a producer on the main roster, because I honestly thought that they were going to put me in NXT. That's where I wanted to go first. I wanted to get my feet wet, not be thrown right into the Sharks. But they put me in there, and I was grateful that they did. I built up a lot of friendships along the way, and I couldn't ask for a better opportunity.
That's amazing that you're involved with the New Day and Usos, because I think, as you mentioned earlier, Dudley Boys, Hardy Boys, Edge and Christian, for an entire generation of wrestling fans, that is tag team wrestling. And I think New Day versus Usos for another generation is tag team wrestling, and outstanding work there. Though I see you wearing a WWE shirt, but recently, January 19th to be exact, you posted on Twitter that you and the company have decided to part ways,
Yeah.
and you feel it's the best decision for all parties. It's been a pleasure and an honor to work with a young talent as well. Now, you said the company and I have decided to part ways. Why did you decide to part ways?
Well, a friend of mine, a once wise man, once said, everything has an expiration date. Regardless if it's going so good or not, everything has an expiration date. Whether it be life, which we all know, because everybody has to die.
Right.
You're born and then you die. And even jobs, you're not going to be with a job forever. Either, you walk away, you get fired, or you retire. Everything happens for a reason. Well, there were just certain things, and I can't really get into detail with it, but you would agree to disagree on certain things, and that's what it was. And I think it was just time to move on and to do something else. I have other projects I was doing. I have a detailing business in Florida. I have an academy, in Winter Park, and so I thought maybe it was just best that I concentrate on those things and to move on. Nothing, I'm very happy and grateful for the time that I spent, not only as talent, but definitely a producer. I was very happy, with my time in NXT. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not taking anything away from the main roster, but I love NXT. I love those women, men and women down there. I think they're a great bunch of guys. And I don't want to start mentioning names because if any one of them sees this and I don't mention their name, I'll probably
Yep.
get a lot of.
They get mad
But
at you.
they get mad. I mean, I know I would be mad if I've worked with somebody and all of a sudden they forgot to tell my name. But no,
Yeah.
I loved everyone there. It was such a great feeling, and I just didn't. I hated to go. I really hated to go, and
So
you
then
know, I
why did you go then? There
well,
were rumors online that you were pulled from an ECW tribute show and that caused a rift. We don't, these are rumors online, these are not from your mouth or my mouth, that you parted ways 1 month later after being pulled from this ECW show. So rumors are Bruce Pritchard found out, didn't like this, Triple H found out, but yet how would it all get approved to be on the show if
well,
Triple H didn't
let
know in
me
the first place?
let me just say this.
Yeah.
I have no issues with Triple H. Triple H did not threaten to fire me. And what a lot of people don't know is I did not speak to Hunter directly during that. But no, he did not threaten to fire me. It was just, again, miscommunication on the dirt sheet writers or whatever. But that was not the case. Again, I can't really go into detail right now. But, again, Triple H, I am you have shirts out there that say a Paul Heyman guy.
You're a Triple H guy?
I'm a Paul Heyman guy because he helped me with ECW, but
Yeah.
I'm totally a Triple H guy. I can't begin to thank that man enough for everything that he's done for me. He was the reason why I became a producer. When Bubba and I left in 2016 as talent, it was, from my understanding, it was him that actually suggested for me to become a producer. And I remember the night we said farewell to the Dudleys, he pulled me aside and asked me, would I like the job? And I told him, I said, look, I'm not ready to hang it up yet. There's still a lot left in the tank for me. I said, I would still love to wrestle, maybe help out some of the younger talent, like Apollo Crews, things like that.
Yeah.
But, unfortunately, Vince wanted both parties. And, there was nothing he could do at that point. So that's why he offered me the job. And I said, well, do I have a choice? Do I have a choice? And he goes, no, not really, D-Von. And all right, well, I'll take the producer's job because I still wanted to be a part of the company. I
Yeah.
still wanted to be a part of the company. And I really enjoy it was a childhood dream of mine to work for WWE. And I grew up watching the product, idolizing the product, and watching and idolizing the talent during the Hogan and Andre era at that time. No other wrestling promotion in my mind back then as a child existed. Vince loves to, make, wants people to think that no other company exists in pro wrestling except for WWF at the time. Like no NWA, no WCW, no, Mid-South or Georgia. And in my mind, it didn't. I was totally hooked on WWE TV. And so I was very grateful. So again, I don't have any issues with the company whatsoever. Hopefully, maybe, you never know. I may be back. But if I was to ever go back, I would want it to be NXT because that's the deal I would do my best. And just simply because of me owning the wrestling school, doing what I'm doing with that, and I can relate to the younger talent and helping them to mold them, brains and in terms of pro wrestling, helping them to get to where they need to be. So if I ever was to go back, I would hope it would be asked in a position for NXT. But it was just time to go. That's all. It was just time to go. There's no other words for it. Again, you agree to disagree, and sometimes it gets a little old. But you have to be the bigger man, and you say, okay, enough's enough. So there's nothing that was done maliciously. or out of content for me to go, nope, I'm done. You
Okay.
know, it's just time. Again, people disagree.
Is
And
there an
that,
example that you can, I know you don't want to get into details, but is there like one example, a small one that you could say like, oh, this is an example of I wanted this and they wanted that?
again, there's certain things I can touch on right now, and there's certain things I can't.
Of
And
course, that's why I asked for a small one, not a big one.
maybe at a later time. But yeah, but going back, yes, I was told that I could not do the autograph signing, and for certain reasons. And when it was explained to me why, I said, okay, I get it. I mean, was I upset? Yes. Was because I just thought it could have been done a little earlier than when I was told, because in that way, people would not have expected me to not be there. But it is what it is, and it happens. It's water under the well now, and you move on from it. But you know, I, to me, my thing was, and it always had been that if I'm not doing anything, with the company, if the company is not actively, working, then I wanted to be able to go out there and kind of freelance a little bit. But you can't do that when you work for an organization. So I get it and understand it, but it's just something that I felt that I just wanted to do. So was that one of the reasons why I left? No, but again, it was just to to agree to disagree.
Right. I'm glad we clarified because I know you mentioned that the wrestling websites, the dirt sheets, you get a crumb and you can make a whole loaf of bread out of that story somehow.
Yes,
And so no one knew. So no one knew when I was told, oh, I'm going to talk to D-Von. I'm like, well, this is a question that people will be yelling at me if I didn't ask. So I had to ask because no one knows. You are the person who has the information. The WWE certainly is not going to just, willfully give this information out. So thank you for sharing that story. Though, what are the daily duties of a NXT producer? I talked to Jimmy Wang Yang once about this. He had, he had his own circumstances. But with you being in NXT, what is your daily routine? A Monday through Friday, a mid shift? Like, what are you doing all day long with these young talents?
yeah. Well, Monday is the production meeting. Tuesday, of course, you're there at TV all day. Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, you're coaching the younger talent at the PC Center. So that's basically what it is. And then sometimes, it depends on live events.
Yep.
Friday, Saturday, you have to go to the live events and run those just like you would do on the main roster. And it goes from there. So again, I had such a good time. I can't express enough how much fun I had in NXT, with Matt Bloom, who's helped run the show with Shawn Michaels. Again, I don't know, you hear stories from other wrestlers, about Shawn and the way he was back then, but I didn't see that in NXT.
Mm.
And when I was working with Shawn, he was nothing but the most respectful person in the world to me. He asked me my opinion on certain things. I gave it to him, and some things he used, and some things he didn't. But that's just the way it is. You're not going to get all your ideas used, and I understand that. Just like I'm sure when he gave his opinion, when he was talent on certain things, not everything Vince took.
Right.
But him and I got along great. And NXT really helped me to grow as a producer. I felt that I had lost a lot of that after my stroke that I had in 2019. And then right after that, I had back surgery. So I did not feel that I had it anymore to be able to produce. And I said, well, if it doesn't work for me here in NXT, then I'm going to really hang it up. And it just happened to click. I was hitting a home run with a lot of matches down there. And I was just having the time of my life to be able to talk to talent and give them um, the creative stuff to do, in the ring, and coming out of my head to their head for them to get it and to do it, and then to hit a home run was tremendous for me. I mean, to me, it was better than actually being in the ring.
Wow.
I actually loved it. I mean, I really did, you couldn't pay me to get back into the ring at that point in time. You really couldn't. That's how much fun I was having. All the glory days of being the Dudley Boys during the Attitude Era and this and that, I wouldn't trade it in for the world for the time I had at NXT. It was really, really a good time.
So then what was your experience working on the main roster as a producer versus NXT? Because obviously as NXT, you're working with young talent who have dreams to be on Raw and SmackDown, to be, on the WrestleMania cards. But on Raw and SmackDown, working with talent, they are already there. And I'm obviously looking for a guiding hand versus NXT, who is looking for everything underneath the sun, trying to pick your brain.
Well, that's the thing. They bring, and you still have a lot of people on the main roster that would like to pick your brain.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes some of the guys and women that are on the main roster might be now programmed into doing things their way and their own thing. So it's like a little bit of a struggle, but sometimes you can get it across and sometimes you can't. It all depends on the individuals, and then that's when you have to go above my head and get somebody who's a little higher to maybe break down what needs to be done. And that happens sometimes. Not everybody is going to agree with you, the individual, on what your vision is of what Vince has. And that was one of the things that it was a little stressful in a sense, but it was what it was. And again, I had a great time up there too. Again, I developed a lot of friendships with people who I never thought I would be able to, develop good friendships with or have. And it was just a great time. I really did. So again, I'm a Paul Heyman guy. I'll say this, I'm a Paul Heyman guy, but I'm really a Triple H guy. I'm really a Paul Levesque guy. So
you like the Pauls. You like the Paul Heyman, Paul Levesque,
Yeah,
what was your relationship like with Vince McMahon then? Because you like the Pauls. What about the Vinces?
Well, I've had a good relationship with Vince. Vince was, a little stern. It was like, Vince was the guy that basically, if you didn't do it, you knew it. That rod was coming down, but it was coming fiercely. Where Paul was kind of a little bit laid back, a little bit more forgiving, and a little bit easier, to talk to in a sense. But, again, I had a good relationship with Vince. There was nothing bad there. I would walk into the production meeting sometimes, say I was the last one in, and he would scream, "Oh, testify!" Stuff like that. Laugh, so we had good vibes too. But, again, I dealt more with Paul Heyman than I did. I'm sorry, with Paul Levesque, with Triple H, than I did with Vince on a lot of levels. So, again, I never built up a real bond with Vince like I think I did with Paul. I'm not saying it was mutual, but felt very comfortable with Triple H, and I really had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun learning from Hunter. The little bit of knowledge that I did get from him during that time. Because remember, when I was on the main roster, he was there, but he was in and out because he was running NXT. So I would try to pick his brain as much as possible and, go from there. I loved the fact that if there was an idea that you had, Triple H didn't make you feel uncomfortable, but he would tell you why it wouldn't work and give you his scenario on it. And I think that's why things working so well on the main roster now with him as creative. And I say this with all due respect to Vince, but you got to remember, a lot of them, if not all of them, went through the NXT system.
Right.
And they dealt with Triple H on a talent level and even some on a personal level. So Triple H was able to connect with them, where you have some guys on the main roster. I'm sorry, you got some people that went from NXT to the main roster that really didn't, click so much. And it could have been because of the fact that Vince didn't understand their character or understand them as an individual, the way Paul did. So when they're down in NXT, Paul was able to reach something out of them and be able to display it on NXT TV. And when they got up to the main roster, it just might not have clicked the way it did in NXT, you know. But again, having a relationship with talent, I believe, is so important. You know, you just can't make them a number. You have to be invested in them, you know, and let them know that you care and you're interested in what they have to say and their ideas.
You bring up talent that came up to the main roster that didn't seem to be clicking with Vince. Two that jump out to me instantly when you said that was Karrion Kross, who was laid off and got brought back by Triple H, but Keith Lee. Keith Lee to me was one of those talents. I'm like, how did this not go right? But hey,
Well,
each person has a different perspective. You know, sometimes you look at someone in a certain light, you can't get them out of that light. And
well,
obviously, Triple H was the dad to them in NXT.
let me just say this, not saying they didn't click with Vince. I'm saying Vince might have understood their character
Yes, yes,
or
yes.
him is what I'm saying. So, you know, where Hunter did, because Hunter worked with them. Hunter helped groom a lot of these characters that you saw in NXT. Now, as far as Karrion Kross, I don't know. You know, I can't answer that question. I was there on the main roster during that time. I do know during that time there were big hopes for him. Where it went south, I don't know. I can't really answer that. I'd be lying if I did. But
Right.
you know, again, Triple H was able to reach people that other people can't, and that just happens. You have one teacher that you got along with great in high school. Then let's just say go back to the new year, same class, same whatever, and it didn't work
Yeah.
because the new guy didn't get that. He didn't know you the way the old guy did.
No,
You know,
yeah, no, I 100% agree with you that I've asked talent who was in NXT and was brought to the main roster, or the fact that NXT 2.0 became a thing, and I've asked a lot of people who got laid off who've gotten brought back now, so I won't mention them by name, but they said it seemed like if you were a Triple H guy when Triple H was out with medical leave, that you had a target on your back because it seemed like Triple H, it's like management in any business. If a new boss comes in, you want your guys to be listening to you. You don't want someone being loyal to the old boss. Did you see this or hear this? Because it seemed like it was that way for a lot of wrestlers.
well, if perception is reality, I mean that's what you're going to get. But I didn't see that.
Okay.
That was the case. You know, the minute Hunter got sick, and then all of a sudden I'm going to start firing these guys and that guy. I don't think that was the case at all. You know, it was unfortunate that they were let go during that time. I think we were all, like, wow, that one's gone. Wow, I don't understand it. But there was never ever a reason given
Yeah.
to why certain people were released. You just knew that they were released, and that was it, and you moved on. Just like with me, people didn't, realize or people didn't understand like why did I leave and this and that. It's one of those things where, you know, you don't know unless you get the full story, like we said earlier. So, the only people that can speak for that is whoever was in charge during that time. And of course, we know it was Vince and whoever else was underneath. Those are the questions for those particular gentlemen and women at that time, because I really can't answer that.
Yeah, of course. Every wrestler, though, that I talked to who was laid off at the time, has slowly come back though underneath Triple H. So it's like the the connecting of the dots seemed too close, but again, that's just a conspiracy versus having facts. So we'll move on from there. When you had your surgery though, and you had your stroke, I did read a story that Stephanie McMahon would not stop trying to reach you on the phone to make sure that you were okay. What is your relationship like with Stephanie? Because it seems like someone who's super busy is calling your wife and making sure that she gets a hold of you to make sure that she knows that you're okay.
You got to forgive me because I get teared up every time I think about that, because this woman was so busy, doing what she was doing, but yet she took the time to do that. I still have the voice messages. She was just like, D-Von, I heard that, what happened, and I just want to know that. And she said, me and Paul are here for you. We're in your corner. We know you're going to make it. And I keep missing you, but I want you to know that even though your wife is giving us an update on everything, I just want you to know that I'm going to continue to call you until I hear from your mouth. And that right there, she didn't have to do that, but she did. So when I did an interview, I think it was sometime before, and I was being, very, very respectful about Stephanie, I used the word infatuation as opposed to admire. And it was running like crazy, like, oh, D-Von with Stephanie, oh, Triple H, be careful, D-Von's after your woman. No,
Oh my God.
I used the wrong word. So people took it and twisted it. No, I admire her so much. I've worked with Stephanie since the Attitude Era. And during the Ruthless Aggression era, during the Reverend D-Von gimmick, she helped me with a lot of stuff and do a lot of ideas. So, again, that's another reason why I've got to be grateful, to Triple H, because when no one else believed in that gimmick, he did. And I say that because that man laid down in the middle of the ring for me on SmackDown, and I beat him 1, 2, 3. That was one of the highlights of my career. As Reverend D-Von, so I can't thank him enough for doing that, because that was at the height of Hunter's career, where he didn't have to lay down for nobody if he didn't want to, but he was helping me get the rub. But certain people behind the scenes at that time didn't think that that was the case. So it never panned out. I truly think that if Hunter was in power then, I think it might have gone somewhere other than where it went in terms of the Reverend D-Von character. But, again, like I like to say, that's water under the well. It is what it is. You move on and you don't cry over spilled milk. But no, Stephanie was great, man. I love the fact that she had did that, because she didn't have to do that. And my wife really admired her for that. She didn't go, oh, I can't believe it. Why can't she just take my word for it? No, she didn't do that at all. She was just like, they love you. They love you there, and that made me feel good. And I think that was one of the things that helped me get through everything, because I only had 25% on my left side, and I had lost a lot. And I basically had to have brain surgery because the clot was on the left side of the brain. And they put a stent in my groin, and then they had to run that stent all the way up to break up the blood clot. So I went through rehab and all of that. And I got everything back to normal again. So right now, my health is doing great. My back is doing. February 15th of this year will make 1 solid year that I've had the back surgery. So I'm back in the gym. I'm up at 5 a.m. in the morning, working out, keeping myself active, keeping myself going. And I've got a personal trainer. He helps me, and it's great. I'm really enjoying myself now. Life is good.
Outstanding. I'm very happy to hear that, because, nobody wants to see one half of the greatest tag team of all time down on their luck, but clearly you are doing well right now. Though
Absolutely.
we are in WrestleMania season, and I want to talk about some WrestleMania matches that you were involved with, because WrestleMania 2000, which is, WrestleMania 16, if you want to do real numbers. I always hated that name, 2000. That's just me. At the time, you had a triangle ladder match at this event: Dudley Boys, Edge and Christian, Hardy Boys. This is kind of one of the first of all time. This is the beginning of the process of the Dudleys, Edge and Christian, and Hardy Boys. Did the office know how good this match was going to be? Because before that, we had tables matches, we had ladder matches, but this is a triangle ladder match. This is incredible, especially for WrestleMania.
Nobody knew. We didn't know. We just knew that we had to go in there and prove that we belonged to be in the position that we were in on one of the biggest cards of the year and the grandest stage of them all. You have guys like, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, Triple H, Big Show, Mick Foley, that are all on this card with other, legendary great names as well. Now, why do we belong? So we had to prove it. And we did. Bubba likes to say Vince didn't know what he had. It was almost like he threw shit against the wall and see if it stuck. And he did, and it did. We stuck. And so, I don't think anybody knew how good that those matches would be. I don't think anybody knew that we would be talking about it almost 25, 30 years later.
Yeah. I think those, when people bring up the greatest WrestleMania matches of all time, usually Shawn Michaels, Undertaker's get brought up from 25, Brett versus Austin 13, and then it's always the matches you guys had together at WrestleMania 2000 plus WrestleMania 17 Astrodome, one of the biggest WrestleManias of all time. People consider this the greatest WrestleMania of all time. And again, you're on the card. Dudley Boys, Edge and Christian, Hardy Boys 1 year later, but we're slipping in Rhino and Lita and Spike Dudley now. Did
Mhm.
anyone get worried about this matchup? Because later on in the night, Undertaker versus Triple H, Rock versus Austin. Those are great matches. But everyone talks about your match at WrestleMania 17. Did anyone show like, should we do this again? A little jealousy.
Well, I don't think if we thought, we should do this again. Vince said, "This is the match going to happen. This is what you're going to do," and you go, "Yes, sir, no problem. We'll make it bigger than the last one."
Yeah. Oh my. But
Understand?
you did make it bigger. And
Well,
again,
here-
the
here-
spots in this match are just even crazier than the last ones.
here's the pressure. We did it in at WrestleMania 2000. It was a triangle ladder match,
Yep.
which is what they called it. It wasn't a TLC match.
Right.
Only to go a few months later and to do the actual first TLC match,
SummerSlam.
SummerSlam. So, and that's in August. So you go from April to August. And now we have to try and pretty much top what we did, 4 or 5 months prior to that, you know? And we did that. And then all of a sudden now go 6 months, 7 months later, and to do it all again, at WrestleMania. So it was kind of hard, to do that, but we did it. And again, who would have ever thought that we'd be still talking about these matches today?
When I watched them, the first time around, you look at them, you're like, my God. And then you start trying to pretend you're them in your backyard and backyard wrestling federations with your cameras. Like the do not try us at home videos did not work for me and my friends.
Don't do drugs was blasted all over the 1980s. It didn't do too much either. So
That's true. That
you
is
know,
true. It's like, let's show the coolest spots in wrestling in a do not try us at home video package.
yeah, to
Uh,
to a generation of kids that's going to be very rebellious and do what they want to do. You know how many times I've had parents come to autograph signing with their kids and go, "You owe me a lot of money." Why do I owe you a lot of money? Well, as many tables as my kids have broken my house because of you guys.
mm-hmm.
Look, I'd be like, listen, I'm going to give you a number and I want you to call it. As a matter of fact, I'm going to give you an address. Okay. And I would give the number, 203, blah, 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 blah. And so then I would say to them, I'd say, whose number is this? I go, this is Uncle Vince. I want you to go to them and tell them what you're telling me because we did this because of him. So I want you to call that his office in Stamford, Connecticut, and tell him, blame him because he's the reason why we did these matches.
I would say I broke a lot of cardboard boxes. If anyone had like a new fridge delivered or a big package, me and my friends were very excited. Be like, oh my God, we can pretend we're the Dudley Boys and powerbomb each other through them. This is the greatest thing ever. And that was, people went to stores and bought boxes just to put our friends through them. So I guess you also help the box companies. Like they should probably pay you money. This mom is upset with you. All these companies or people with tables, like people are buying tables to be
Listen,
like you.
as far as I'm concerned, Home Depot should have been paying us royalties. As many tables as we broken over the years.
No kidding. Why weren't you sponsored? Like, we recently at Royal Rumble, we had the Mountain Dew Pitch Black match. Mountain Dew's plastered everywhere. AEW did a Crate and Barrel match, I think, a couple years ago as well. I don't understand why, you're right, Home Depot or Lowe's didn't put a big giant logo on every table that you used. Imagine that. Every Raw, every SmackDown, every pay-per-view. You could have been cashing those checks forever.
Listen, as far as I was concerned, not only Home Depot should have been paying us, but I thought Doritos should have been paying us too with the 3D. 3D those Doritos. I was like, damn, I was like, how come we're not getting any endorsement deals off of this? You know? Nobody wanted to touch us
Oh,
because
man.
of that era, the things that we were doing. You're not going to be able to put an 80-year-old woman through a table and not think people are going to be rebellious against it. I mean, the majority of people loved it, but there was some of those Christian believers. Nope, you don't touch my grandmother.
Well, I was gonna say the WWF at that time was also selling condoms, so I don't know why people were so upset. Who wants to buy a Stone Cold Steve Austin condom? Someone did, and they were being sold. So
I imagine being with a girl and going, "Hold on, baby, let me get a condom out." Next, it's Steve Austin or The Rock's face. saying, "Do you smell what he cooking?"
Oh my God. That'd be classic and a little embarrassing. I'm not sure which one.
Well, that'd have been great for a commercial. You have the guy and the women about to make love, and then all of a sudden, hold on, baby, let me get this condom. Rock puts his hand out and gives him the condom. Now go down there and ask him, "Do you smell what I'm cooking?"
oh, dude. This is money on the table. This is money on the table. Oh, hell yeah. I got 2 words for you. Do it instead of suck it.
Yeah.
Things could, we got a business here. We need to stop this interview so people don't steal our ideas.
Well, I never knew that WWE had condoms. I
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
know that.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
had on them.
Yeah, yeah. They're not like on the actual condom was in a face, but like on the actual, like, package it came in. The
Wow.
WWF logo. Oh yeah, oh yeah. If you go on Google, you can find a lot of weird products that were made in the Attitude Era. And you're like, that was a thing. Like I still have it. It's over there, but it's like a Stone Cold Steve Austin like alarm detector. Someone breaking into your house. It's got like, hey, get out of my house. Like what? But they sold it. They did
Wow.
sell it. But
Didn't know.
oh yeah, weird products, man. Of course, they couldn't get a beer deal. I'm always shocked by that. Um, you mentioned him earlier, but let's talk about him. Reverend D-Von did defeat Triple H once, and that was incredible. But you got put together. You're already in a tag team with Dudley Boys. They broke up for some strange reason during your draft. Maybe you can enlighten us. Why did the Dudley Boys break up? Was it your idea?
Well, no, that was Vince's idea. He saw something. And I think the Reverend Devon character, because Vince knew my background, my parents were reverends. My father was a bishop, and my mother was a reverend. And, they had a huge church in Harlem, New York, which is still very much active. My father passed away in 2003. And so my mother took over the church. She is the only African American female to pastor in New York City with a members for over 500 people. So a very accomplished, feat for my mom after my dad passed. And, Vince knew the background and decided, let me do it. Because I know the Catholic Church was on us for the Attitude Era and the things and the storylines that we were going to. People were picketing outside and things like that. Some people like to say that Vince was kind of like making, and that was at the time too, when all the stuff came out with the priests and what they were doing to these kids, and how not only that, but the priests weren't as legit as everybody thought they were. Mm. Money laundering, things like that, with the TV evangelists, and an idea was born, and I was the scapegoat for it.
Like, what was it? The Right to Censor was another group created, I think, just to poke fun at the FCC for being sticklers over everything, changing Val Venus and changing The Godfather. Bull Buchanan somehow got changed too. I didn't really feel him. He was very controversial, though. But Reverend Devon was suddenly, again, given someone else, Deacon Batista, who obviously became Dave Batista, one of the biggest Hollywood stars in the world right now, and went on to become one of the biggest WWF box office, well, WWE wrestlers of all time. When he was with you, did you see the potential of him becoming just more than just the muscle to Reverend Devon?
Well, yes and no. I mean, remember back then you would always see big guys like him.
Yeah.
But not a lot of big guys can move like Dave. Dave was very unique. He was very agile. He was very athletic. Dave just needed the right people to, put him in the right direction and to teach him the business. I had the pleasure of working with Dave and doing somewhat of that in the very beginning of his career. But then Triple H and Ric Flair were the ones that took over from there. And I'm sorry, people like Ric Flair and Triple H, you can't get any better than that.
Yeah.
I mean, look, the Nature Boy Ric Flair, 16-time, world champion. Triple H, one of the best in the business at the time. And you got those two minds together, taking you under their wing. You can't ask for better.
That's true. But like you said, there's always been like, oh, the big muscly guy is there to be the muscle for somebody else. And we've seen it over and over and over and over where you're like, the good guy has to fight this big muscly guy and the muscly guy loses. Usually 99% of the time, they don't end up getting out of that in joining Triple H and Ric Flair and Randy Orton, forming Evolution, becoming a world champion, defeating Taker and Edge and all these great talents. So
Mm-hmm.
it is strange to see that out of all the people this has happened to, he actually got out of that of being just the muscle to an established star like yourself. So, it was great. But like I don't think a lot of people bring up Deacon Batista. It's more of just like people bring it up to be like, a haha. But it's really like, oh my god, like how he got out of that and became one of the biggest stars of all time. So I guess he got the Reverend D-Von rub. So good, good for him.
Yeah, I mean, and I helped out a lot of people along the way, but I was very happy to be a part of so many that have succeeded. At one point in time, I was responsible for Batista, Randy Orton, Maven, Umanga, um, and what's her name, Dawn Marie. We all rode together, so it was like a bunch of Motley Crue guys.
I was gonna say that's a group. That is a group.
And this was, Randy when he was, young. Randy he broke every rule there was to break. I tell people all the time, I even tell Randy when I speak to him, I go, "You're the reason why I have no hair. You do know that." I said, "My kids turned to gray, but you just made it fall all out." He laughs all the time. He goes, "D-Von, I'm so sorry." He goes, "I know I was very difficult to deal with." I go, "You think?" I was like, "You know how many times you gave me a heart attack?" I was like, "How the hell am I going to explain this to the office?"
Oh yeah, good old Randy Orton. A quick Randy Orton story myself. I was at a live event once, and it was like a house show. So I'm in like getting food, and he came out of the black curtain like next to the food, and he bumped me. I have all my stuff in my hand. He like tapped me, and he's so big, so I'm like, ah, my food, my drink go everywhere. He just steps over me, buys Twizzlers, steps back over me, looks back, and just kept walking. And I was like, I'm on the ground, like covered in drinks and popcorn and stuff, and I'm like, I don't know what just happened, but it might have been the coolest thing in the world that just happened to me.
Well, I love Randy. Randy was great. I mean, he still is. Um, I had such good times, good memories with Randy, even though he drove me crazy over the years. But, I had such a great time. All those guys in the car, Umanga, I miss dearly. He was my sidekick. Him and Maven, we were like thick as thieves. We were together all the time. People thought it was me and Bubba, but no, Bubba hung out with Shane McMahon a lot and Tommy Dreamer. So in WWE, but when I was in WWE, it was me, Umanga, and Maven.
Wow. Again, that is a combo. I don't think anyone, because everyone thinks like, oh, you're rad with your tag team partner, but that's not the case most of the time. I know with some people. Some people do, obviously, some people don't. But it's amazing that Umaga and Maven were your two sidekicks during that run, which is just I think is the best thing in the world. I wish I was a stable. I wish I was a faction on TV. I would love that.
Oh, we had so much fun, and the things we partied outside. I can't pretty much talk about, but man, we had some times.
Oh my god, that sounds amazing.
Remember, no cell phone with cameras. There was no internet, so we got away with a lot of stuff.
And it's funny you say that too, because of all the road stories you randomly hear from podcast or anybody really, you're like, wow, that happened? Like, oh my
Yeah.
God. And then you're thinking if it happened in today's world, that would be, it'd be all over TikTok and Twitter and every website would be like, oh my God, did you hear the D-Von and Umaga and Maven went out and partied like crazy and it's all over TikTok. They're doing the TikTok dances. No, I don't think you guys be doing that.
Well, or not.
Well,
But you never know. Maven was a big jokester himself, so he would have talked us into doing it.
oh my God, that would have been amazing. Oh God, that sounds like so much fun. Though,
Yeah.
I had this book a long time ago. It was like the unauthorized ECW book, and it was about the history of ECW. In the back of the book, I don't know if these numbers are true. It had numbers of all the money Paul Heyman owed each wrestler, and you were there, but I don't remember the exact number. But I talked to Rob Van Dam, and he said he was owed about like $50,000 when he was done with ECW. Was there a point when you left? Because I know I've seen past interviews. I think Bubba said it. All you guys asked for was one more dollar. Like, I just want one more dollar to stay, Paul. Just give us a little bit more money, we'll stay. And he's like, I can't do it. I just can't do it. Like, what was the situation when you left to come to WWE? Was it, hey, you owe us a lot of money, we like you, but dude, you owe us a lot of money?
Well, he didn't owe me and Bubba a lot of money at all.
Okay.
Bubba, remember, but I do know there was only one paycheck, and that was like I think $1,200. That was it. Compared to some of the other people that were talking about, thousands and thousands of dollars. Bubba says he got paid, so maybe he did get paid, but I know there was one, I only didn't get one check. That was it. And
Okay.
again, total maybe 1,500, maybe 2,000. That was it. But at the time, I didn't care because I had just signed with WWE, and I was in so much. I mean, it was incredible the amount of money I was making during the Attitude Era. I can't even begin to put it in words. So it didn't matter to me. And besides, I was just such on a high going to WWE. I just like, it don't matter.
Right. You're like, I got people are wearing these giant 3D foam fingers. I have one. It's in my garage. If I got up, I'd go get it. But it's huge, the giant foam fingers. And me and my friends still make the jokes where we bought them, we sat down, and my friend yelling, he's like, you're sitting on my fingers. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, buddy. He's like, no, not my real fingers, my 3D fingers. And I'm like, oh, like, I'm so sorry. So we still bring that up today. So he probably would have killed me if I said, hey, I talked to D-Von today, but I didn't tell him the finger story. He'd be
Right.
probably upset. So Gary, wait, I did it for you, Gary. Okay. You happy now, Gary? Don't yell at me. Though, seriously, it has been an honor and pleasure talking to you today. But with your kids involved with professional wrestling as well, how does that make you feel as a father? Because you know the tough road ahead. You've done it. You made it to the top of the mountain. How do you feel seeing your kids involved?
I didn't like it.
No.
Part of me still doesn't like it, but they're old enough. They're 28 years old now. No, I'm sorry, they're 27. And, if that's what they choose to do, that's what they choose to do. I know how rough it was for me to get to where I needed to get to, the mistakes I made along the way. And sometimes in this business, when you make mistakes, they don't forget.
Mm.
People don't forget. And I'm talking about people that can make or break your career. They don't forget. They'll hold that against you. And everybody's human. But, I had great people looking out for me in ECW, like Tommy Dreamer. Paul Heyman was a good friend of mine. And a lot of people don't know this, but so was New Jack. I know people think me and New Jack feuded after we left, and we were never friends, but that wasn't the case at all. I love New Jack to death, and he loved me. I love Jerome Young. Um, I love Jerome Young, but I didn't pretty much care for New Jack because New Jack was exactly what you saw um, on in the ring. But Jerome Young, aka New Jack,
Yeah.
Jerome Young was totally different from New Jack. So I love Jerome Young, and I miss him dearly, and it hurts that I never really got to say goodbye to him. We made up with all the stuff that we went on at each other's social media. We made up years ago, and I do remember the last time I did talk to him on the phone was about maybe 4 or 5 years prior to him passing, and the last thing we said to each other was we loved each other, and thank you, and I'll always hold that to my heart. So all the other shoot interviews and things like that, yeah, we were mad at each other, but we overcame that.
It's good to hear because I know a lot of, as a fan of professional wrestling myself and a man who interviews wrestlers for a living, it is nice to hear that, there's a wrestling bubble we're all in. And sometimes we fight inside of our bubble, but we also will defend our bubble to the outsiders who try to bring it down and try to pop it for us. So good to hear that you and New Jack got back on good graces before he passed away a few years ago, right before I think his Dark Side of the Ring episode came out as well. So that was an interesting watch, but a good watch as well if you're a New Jack fan or not. Either way, it was a good watch. So, but having your kids though involved, like they have appeared in AEW, and we're all waiting to see what's next. So, like, what is next, you think, for them, and what is next for you in professional wrestling now that you're done with the WWE right now?
Well, in this business, well, let me go on the first with the Twins. I don't really know. I'm behind them in whatever they want to do. I do know that they're striving to for NXT or AEW. I do know they're trying to get on that. They're in AEW right now, but they want to be a permanent fixture on that main roster if they can. And if not, then I'm sure they'll set their sights on NXT. I'm behind them all the way in whatever decision they make. I think they're tremendous athletes. I think they can go a long way in this business if given the opportunity. And I always told them, I said, if you want me to be a manager, I'll come out there and do it and set the table up for you. Just don't push me as hard as Bubba does when you tell me that I can do it and things like that. And go from there. So it's whatever they decide to do. I think that's a question for them. I can't really speak for them because every time I do, I get in trouble by them.
Oh no. So
So,
you're just talking about them for a little bit right now. Apparently, like, you're getting a phone call at some point.
yeah. So, but as far as where I'm going next, I don't know. I know I'm going to enjoy my family. I have a beautiful wife, two beautiful girls. This is my third marriage and my last. Uh, but I'm enjoying life right now. My daughter is 4 and the baby is 3. And so, yes, this old man can still do it.
Did you use the rock condom? Is that what you didn't use that? So it proves.
No, anything at all.
Uh,
Me and my wife now, we were looking to have a baby. So it
nice.
wasn't an accident. It wasn't an oops. It was okay. It was to the point where we didn't think we could because we kept trying and we couldn't.
Mm.
And finally, the Lord blessed us with not one, but 2. And, we're very happy and grateful for that. So where am I going to go now? I'm going to spend some time with my girls and my wife. I'm going to enjoy myself and just relax. Again, if Paul, and I told Paul, if you ever need me to come back to NXT, I'm there and I'll be there for you. I'll do, my door is always open to Paul. I'm not saying that it's not open to Vince, but I have a stronger relationship, I feel, with Triple H. And there's nothing bad about that. I'm sure the dirt sheets will twist everything I just said and make it into their own, but I don't have an issue with Vince. I just have a better relationship, I feel, or I talk to Hunter a little bit more than I did with Vince. And I think Paul understood me and understood me very well. And I even wrote him in a text message telling him thank you for everything because I really admired him for where he came from in terms of in the business and the position that he's in right now. And my loyalty lies with Paul. So if Paul wanted me to come back and do NXT, then I would come back. But right now I just want to enjoy myself and be with my family.
Outstanding. I know with Triple H now involved, we're coming up on his first WrestleMania underneath just his creative. And as of right now, as we're talking, Roman Reigns defending his championships against Cody Rhodes is the main event of WrestleMania. Your expertise, over 20 years in the business, who do you think is going to win that match?
Well, you got Cody Rhodes, who's definitely on top of his game right now. He definitely has the skills to beat Roman Reigns. But here's the thing: Roman Reigns, not only is the strength and the power, but he has the Usos.
Yeah.
He has Solo. He has Paul Heyman. You've got 4 guys on the outside that if the head of the table, Roman Reigns, is not faring well, you better believe the Usos are going to make sure something does turn. So I don't know, unless Rose can bring out somebody in his corner. I don't know, maybe a Gold Dust. Somebody. If he can bring somebody in his corner to watch his back, you might see the titles change hand at WrestleMania. But that's the only disadvantage I feel that that's against Rose. That's against Cody. He's got so many people on the outside in terms of Roman Reigns that you just never know. So if Rose does try to get the upper hand on him, you might see those 4 elements, take effect and try to change the course of the match.
Oh man, I'm very excited, but I've just been very excited here talking to, again, as I said earlier, and I'll say it again, one half of the greatest tag team, in my personal opinion, D-Von Dudley, one half of the Dudley Boys. I just want to also thank Pod Stars for allowing me to sit down today with D-Von Dudley here. They have given me the go-to. They said, let's talk to D-Von. Let's get this going, because Pod Stars, again, it's a monthly fee for only $8.99 a month. You can access entire professionals catalog, UFO experts, FBI agents. You want to talk to an MLB Empire professional wrestlers like D-Von Dudley himself, Ken Shamrock, Victoria, Buff Bagwell, the Buff Bagwell pose, Jake the Snake Roberts, Sabu, so many. So off the top of the show, I did read another promotion about Pod Stars, but check them out. February, we're in the month we're in right now. They're opening up their website. So many opportunities to interview wrestlers like D-Von Dudley. But I gotta say, it has been a pleasure sitting here talking to D-Von Dudley today. I've been Steve Ball. He's D-Von Dudley, one half the greatest tag teams of all time. And we'll see you next time right here on 10 Count. Bye.
Yeah.